is Hersheypark's hydraulic launch coaster in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Located in the Pioneer Frontier section of the park, Stormrunner opened in May of 2004, so it's been operating for 20 years now, and is one of the best, if not the best, roller coaster in the park for some people. When Stormrunner first opened and replaced Balloon Flight, a kids ride that operated for a couple decades, but Hersheypark needed a roller coaster that could compete with other theme parks in the world. As when Stormrunner was being announced in the time of Coast Wars, which was a time that theme parks were rushing to break every record possible and do brand new stuff nobody's seen before. Stormrunner did a couple things, but we'll get to that later. Hersheypark didn't have any real elite roller coaster at the time. The lineup was Comet, the 1946 Classic Woody, Trailblazer, the Kid Mine Train, Super Duper Looper, the first looping roller coaster in the East Coast, Sidewinder, now known as Jolly Rancher Remix of Vekoma Boomerang, Great Bear, the Parks Inverted Coaster, Wildcat, the very rough and first GCI coaster, Wild Mouse, which you could find at various parks, and Lightning Racer, the wooden dueling GCI. So the only great coaster on this list is Great Bear, at least in my opinion. Hersheypark felt as if they needed to step up its roller coaster game, so they brought in Intamin to make a very popular, at the time, hydraulic launch coaster. Around this time, Kingda Ka and Top Thrill Dragster were opening, which if you don't know these two rides, you are living under a rock. When these opened, they were the tallest and fastest roller coasters in the United States, and nobody saw rides like them before. Both were also manufactured by Intamin as well, but instead of the normal hydraulic launch up the top hat and down the spiral, it had a very unique custom layout. Stormrunner actually features two elements you cannot find on any other roller coaster in the world. Stormrunner launches you from 0 to 72 miles per hour in 1.9 seconds. That is just absolutely insane to think about. When you watch the off-ride, you can feel the speed. Stormrunner was actually the first accelerator coaster to use over-the-shoulder restraints, a dual loading station, switch track, and inversions. So it was the first to do a lot, but about the restraints, Stormrunner uses over-shoulder restraints, which isn't bad, but since recently Hersheypark gave Skyrush new restraints, I hope in the future we see Stormrunner get an upgrade. It's already so fast, so just imagine this thing with a lap bar. It would be a mini Top Thrill Dragster with a layout, which is actually really great about this ride. It's nothing like the hydraulic launch coaster that we see on stuff like Kingda Ka, Top Thrill Dragster, and accelerators, etc., etc. Because those just have really short layouts. It's really just a launch on those roller coasters. But Stormrunner is actually a full layout. What's also really cool is Hersheypark let the public name this roller coaster on a voting poll, so that's pretty awesome to think about. Stormrunner is 2,600 feet long and has 58 seconds of full throw. Another great thing about Hersheypark is that it uses its terrain very well. When you ride Stormrunner, the layout interacts with other rides like Trailblazer and the monorail, which is pretty cool. When the switch track turns on to the launch track, it pauses, then the train rolls back, and then you hear "Now get ready, here you go," the famous words on the roller coaster. And as you hear "go," you go 0 to 72 miles per hour in 1.9 seconds up the top hat, where you'll actually get some airtime, which is the only airtime you find on this ride. You go through that top hat very fast and receive some sustained flow to airtime. Then you plummet down a 180 vertical feet drop, which reaches the speed of 75 miles per hour and then goes into an element called the Cobra Loop, which is a first of its kind and only kind of its element. The best thing to compare this element to is the first half of a Cobra roll. I think this is a very thrilling element. You fly into this and then get hang time as you're finishing up the Cobra Loop. Now after the Cobra Loop, you go into one of the most unique elements of all time, and a lot of people say this is one of their favorite elements on any roller coaster. Of course, I'm talking about the flying snake dive, which is just a fancy word for a heartline roll with a dive drop. On this element, you just go into a heartline roll, but you keep turning and then go into a drop. I think the flying snake dive is really unique and is one of the best moments on this ride. It forces you through the whole thing. Following one of the most insane coaster elements ever, you descend into the Spring Creek. Hersheypark does have a lot of their roller coasters interact with this one creek. After the dip, you rise up into two outer bank turns that aren't whippy. They're actually very tame. It's not as forceful as ones you'll find on Intimidator 305 or Maverick, and then you rise up into the final break run. You'll actually receive some airtime as you are cruising into the final break run because you rise up like on Intimidator 305 and then descend while going into the final break run. The closest roller coaster you can really compare Stormrunner to is Max Force at Six Flags Great America. Max Force has the fastest acceleration in the world and was inspired by rides like Storm Runner. I would not compare Storm Runner to rides like King the Ka or Top Thrill Dragster because this is a way longer layout. It's not 15 seconds, and it's not just a top hat and spiral down. It's a complete layout of an accelerated coaster, which is best compared to Max Force. So if you love Max Force, you would definitely love Storm Runner. Storm Runner has the best launch I've ever been on, and it is one of the most intense roller coasters I've ever ridden. So did Storm Runner improve Hersheypark for being the first accelerated coaster in the US and was most people's favorite when it opened to the public, and is still some of people's favorite up to this day, which is crazy with the rides like Skyrush, Candemonium, and Wildcat's Revenge in the lineup now. But this roller coaster is really special because this was the start of Hersheypark really making elite roller coasters. After this, Fahrenheit was built, which is the only vertical lift hill Intamin built. Skyrush, one of the most intense roller coasters on planet Earth. Candemonium, known as one of the best B&M hypercoasters. And the new Wildcat's Revenge, one of the best RMC coasters ever built. So this roller coaster is very special to Hersheypark for starting that upward trajectory for the park and benefited it for the time, attracting more guests to the park. Finally, the rating for this roller coaster is a 9.3 out of 10. I do think this roller coaster is great, and even though it's only 2,600 feet long, you do not come off this thing saying that's it. No. Everything through the layout is executed very well and doesn't have a moment where there's nothing. You will want to ride this over and over again and will not get bored, trust me. This is a must-do at Hersheypark if you go. Very great layout, and I really hope Hersheypark will change the restraints to lap bars. It will only make it more intense and a better experience for feeling more free on the trains. I'll see you in the next one, enthusiasts. Tell me what your favorite roller coaster at Hersheypark is down in the comments below. And what do you think of Storm Runner? Remember to subscribe to see more content like this.